So as the week has already started, you're probably thinking of which setup are you going to take and which trade am I going to take this week. So I'm going to take you through the procedure I do undertake every week. It doesn't change. Even those people that I've taught privately, it's the same thing that we do every week. So sit tight and watch until the end. If you want to note down something, make sure you get your pen and paper and note down something. This is the exact procedure I do take. So it will be of value if you undertake it also. Remember, we want to shorten your journey to consistency. So these are the things that I usually do. Number one is I usually first look at last week, right? My winning trades and my losing trades. Now, for example, last week we had a breakdown on gold, and we said that there are two possibilities of gold. We wanted gold to come down and retest here before continuing up, and I wanted to trade this retracement here. And I got a nice entry. All my rules were met. You can clearly see I had an entry here. And this has been my first stop loss in a very, very long time. Those who have taught in the private group, and we normally have breakdowns on Sunday, you know this. Very long time, the first time we are actually being stopped out. So all the rules were met here, and the market moved a little bit, gave us a few pips. So scalpers could have actually maybe made something here, but of course I need to hold up to down here. Why here? Because this level was untested. So I have to check last week. How did the week go? For example, I'm just giving an example on this. So I'll note down that I hit stop loss because of ABCD, and I'll check out where did I go wrong? Did I get in a little bit early? Did I fulfill all the rules and etc. Right? So check last week. Did you win? If you won, which pattern did you come up with? So that over a period of time, you're compiling things that work for you and things that do not work for you. That's the first thing you have to do when you're preparing for the new week, right? So the second point that I would like you to focus on is the sentiment, the liquidity. Where is the money going to flow this current week, which you're preparing for? That is what we call the sentimental analysis, sentiments. Now, there are very many ways traders can do sentiment. Some people use reports by the CFTC. Some people use there's something on investing.com and many others, right? You can use whatever you want to use. Now, a couple of people are going to say that they can determine liquidity on the chart. Maybe it's possible. I'm not knowledgeable about that. And remember, everything works, right? So never trash anyone's method of trading. Just actually learn and pick one or two things from another person's way of trading, because everything works as long as you follow your rules, right? So you have to pick out the sentiments. If you can get the sentiments from the chart, you can get how liquidity is created or generated from the chart. It's good, but general liquidity is given always presented by numbers because it is a sentiment. So it's in a layman's language. What is sentimental analysis? Sentimental analysis is when I come to you and I ask you that, hey, Peter, I have analysis on gold ABCD. I think it's going to do this. What is your view on it? Then Peter will give you your view, right? His view, sorry. That's what we call sentiment. A sentiment, like I'm asking for someone's opinion. Are you getting it? So that's the second thing that you have to do. And then thirdly, you have to look through that the week you're checking for. You have to look at what the fundamentals are saying, right? Are you going to scalp news, or what is the news coming out stating? For example, the dollar is very strong, but why is the gold going up? Gold is moving up. I mentioned it in one of the breakdowns in case you follow us on other social medias like Instagram and TikTok. I mentioned it in one of the weekly breakdowns that we do almost every day. If you haven't followed us there, make sure you do follow us. Check the links in the description. Make sure you follow. We upload breakdowns almost every day, so I do not miss out, right? So I mentioned in one of the videos, or a couple of the videos, that oil, gold, these are where people put their money in case, commodities especially, when we have war, when we have instabilities in the world. So currently, of course, technically, we knew that gold has hit a very strong level. We mentioned it in the previous setups. You can watch the previous videos. But also, fundamentals contributing to a huge play in the movement upwards, right? Why? Because of the war. So people tend to put their money into gold. That's why you see when the stock market is dropping like that, it's dropping. It's not going to slide so far like COVID and the rest, but whenever such things are happening, people tend to put money in gold. So that's why gold is gaining. It's a fundamental thing. So you have to analyze and put together these things. So in case you don't want to look at sentiment and fundamentals, it's okay, but at least look at the sentiments. Look at your past week performance. see where you went wrong. If you don't use these two, because people tend not to focus on them, though I would advise you look at these things. Even if you don't want to look into all these things, that what has this government done, what has this one done, at least look at the economic calendar. Know that there's news on such and such a day, there is news at such and such a time, so that you'll be prepared for it. Are you going to protect your trades, or you're going to exit them at that particular time in case you don't trade news? Are you getting it? And then lastly, you've looked at the sentiments. So the sentiments will give you that, comparing to your last week's trades, if you've not closed them. For example, I have a running trade on GBPUSD. Also, it moved in our direction, and currently it has bounced back. I'm just going to show you in a bit when we're doing the breakdown. So if you've not closed any trades, the sentiment, what's the sentiment saying? Is it going to continue in your direction? If no, what are you going to do? When the market opens, you can actually close it, right? At maybe break even, or you can, whatever way you protect yourself, positive stop loss, or you can just close with a small loss, depending on what your rules state. Remember, you have to trade using rules that you set for yourself, right? And follow them strictly and just keep improving them so that you do not blunder, right? So then the fourth point is, then you look at the analysis now for this coming week. Look at the trades, the pairs that you trade. Do not trade very many things. You don't need more. You don't need to look at more than 5 things. So when you look at 5 pairs, let's say, or 5 things, like they can be pairs. Okay, let me call them 5 securities, because I'm calling them securities because you may be trading commodities like gold, oil, copper, coffee, and plus currency pairs like Euro, USD, GBPUSD, and the rest, right? So let me just call them securities. So do not look at more than 5 securities. And if you look at those securities, pick out your A+ securities that have given you the setup that gives you money. That's why we start by looking at last week's performance, right? So that we establish over a long period of time. Most traders do not even have a track record, right? Actually, most people are talking about funding, I don't have capital and the rest. But do you know that if you have a proper track record, you not lack money. People will give you money to trade, right? So this helps you to create a very proper track record, so that in time, it may be a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, it could be of a very big importance to you that you may not realize now. So it helps also to shorten your journey by realizing your mistakes early, right? So you look at the current setups so that you can see how you're going to go about it. But after looking at these, right? Number one, look at your previous week performance, either positive or negative. Note down a thing or two about it. Then look at the sentiments. Very, very important, right? What are the big people saying? What are the people put money into the market saying, right? You can use all the methods that you use. I've given you a few of them. Then you look at the fundamentals. And if you don't want to go deep into fundamentals, at least look at the economic calendar. Be aware of what time is a speech coming, what time is really is going to happen, so that you protect yourself. I don't want to hear these things, at least if you follow this channel, or if I've taught you in the public classes or the private classes that I was in huge profits, then from nowhere my profits are reduced, or I went and hit stop loss, and now it's being reckless, right? Then you can do your breakdown. So this is the last part that we're going to be looking at. I'm still going to be looking at gold and GBPUSD, and then the rest we shall be posting on our other social media channels, right? So let's just, without wasting time, let's look at gold. Now, gold, like I've mentioned to you, I hit stop loss in a very long period of time. If you've been following, you know that. Now, let me just clear this and we look at what is actually happening to gold. Now, when you come to the monthly time frame, you can clearly observe that we said, even the previous breakdown, that currently we have a threat that the price is above this neckline here, which we talked about it going to retest it, but now we're currently above it, right? So, and also, of course, the price reached where I wanted it to come to. We wanted price to come down here. If you recall, if you've been following up breakdowns, right, you remember that. So price reached, though we expect it to come retest, create a higher low down bottoms, and before we can continue up, but it starts aggressively broken above. So when you go to the weekly time frame, I've mentioned also about this, the momentum. This momentum is bullish, right? This was just a midterm drop down so that we can come and retest a place here properly, right? So I just think that this movement is supposed to continue upwards, like I mentioned in the previous videos, right? Though we wanted to capitalize, of course, on the short-term movements. Now, those who use trend lines, you can clearly observe that the market has currently broken above this area here, right? Let me just adjust it properly. So the market has just broken above this midterm low momentum or weak momentum that we're talking about. So that's one conference that you can have. Another conference that you can have is, you see these areas here that the market has just broken above, you can use them as your areas of interest. So you can see that we have a market that has broken above here and retested it, though it's an improper retest, but now it has broken 2 levels. It has broken this area here and broken this area. If you want, you can bring in a confluence of a Fibonacci because there's an opposite candle currently running. You can draw it there and you can see between this and this is where the Fibonacci levels start from. So as the market comes down, you can look for change of trend before you can continue higher, right? So that's also another confluence that we have in weekly. And then when you go down to the weekly, so the daily time frame, because we are first establishing an understanding of all the time frames. So if you check the daily time frame, it shows that actually it broke above this level and actually retested it, right? This retest here, which we talked about last week, we say that the market may either come, retest this point, give us a lower high or double tops before coming down to retest an improper level, which I showed you earlier on with when I hit stop loss. My target was just, I wanted the market to test certain improperly tested level, this area here, so that actually we can continue higher, but it didn't reach. It actually decided to test this level here and then continues up. So that's why risk management is very, very important when you're doing trading, right? So now what do we expect to see? We have now a level that the market has broken above here. So actually, if you're looking to trade gold, remember the steps I've just given you. I already went through them with the team and those people that we have had classes with. We looked at our past trades of last week. Then the second step, first step was last week. The second step, which we talked about, was the sentiments. Now, the sentiments say that actually these market makers or the liquidity providers are looking at longing this gold, right? But of course, you don't have money that they have. So make sure you look at the levels below. We call it buying at a discount or buying at a cheaper price. It's just like when you go to a shop or you go to anywhere you do your shopping from, you want to buy, as long as you're a buyer, you want to buy at a cheaper price, right? So either you can look at this area of interest or you can look at it even lower when the market comes to grab liquidity into these areas here, right? Because we have some areas that are not properly tested here, and also this area here was not properly tested. It was tested, but not properly tested. So the market may decide to give us a deeper correction here or even here. Alternatively, also the price may decide to first continue to give us an aggressive push up. Then you can again imply the Fibonacci, which I think that will come to retest this area here, and then it continues higher. So whatever it does, make sure you be prepared for it. If this level is broken, because sometimes this opposite candle may come a little bit, then it continues to be green. So there you can use Fibonacci when it comes to test these areas, especially this one that is broken, then you can take a buy. So you have this level for now, and also this area here. As the market comes down, observe for a change of trend. Then you can look for buying opportunities. Why? Because the sentiments, now here the sentiments we're talking about are not that you're asking your friend, no. Here we are looking at data that is being given to us by people who have money that they're provided in the market. The trillions of dollars we're talking about are being provided by these guys, the banks, the hedge funds, and the rest, right? So daily, weekly, and monthly are speaking the same thing, that we monthly says that we've actually broken above this area. Weekly says we have broken above this trend line here, is the confluence. Daily says actually also broke above this thing and actually retested here, but now we have broken above these levels here. So retest, maybe even a deeper one to grab liquidity, then we go up. So make sure you do not take a trade when there's no change of trend here, or like I've mentioned, that if the market, this candle turns green and breaks above here, you can apply again Fibonacci, so that when retest, look for change of trend, then you can be looking for buys. So we have identified our structure that we're establishing buys. Now let's go to our entry time frame and observe how currently the market is playing. Now, if you to observe how the market is playing, it shows that actually the market has gone below some structure that we have here. So if the market can actually lose momentum at where it is here, right, then we can have a pullback inside here. Though, like I always mention, if you're not well covered with your rules, do not trade pullbacks. Wait for the market to come into your areas of interest, and then you can just trade the continuation. Always trade continuations. They are easier. They don't give a lot of stress, right? So that's what we have on gold. And then also, let's go to the second trade that we looked at last week, and which I'm currently still in. And now this is, which trade is that? That trade is GBPUSD. Now, GBPUSD actually didn't hit my target. It was almost 3/4 way there, but it did not reach there. Now, this is a setup that I gave you guys also last week. Now, you can always see the arrow that I shared in our private group of the people. We had an entry here. It moved down, came back, right? Then again moved down and established something like a down bottom. Now again, it has pushed up. I'm still in. Why am I still in? Because of the routine that I've just showed you. I'm not gambling. I'm trading with what I've done over and over, and I'm trading over the rules that I've established over a period of time. And what is that? The steps I've just showed you. I looked at last week. I looked at my sentiment. I looked at the fundamentals. And these things seem to be aligning with the trade I have. Even if we are currently having a no direction movement, but the sentiment still tell me that the market makers are providing money to push the GBP down, right? So if they're providing to push the GBP down, then let's look at the setup that I still have. My setup still tells me it has not changed trend. It will change trend if it breaks above this area. That's why I see my stop losses within this area. If the market comes and breaks above here, I'll happily lose this trade here. But currently, it's still respecting the analysis that we did. We had the false breakout here, so it has come back to test this area here. So as long as this area is not taken out, I'll still be very comfortable in this trade. So if it can come, react a bit, break down, then it will be very good for us, right? So this is for last week. But what about those who are just watching this for the first time? Let's also take a break down of this, right? Let me just clear everything. Let's start from the monthly time frame, right? Excuse me. So from the monthly time frame, I've mentioned over time that I'll only trade GBPUSD when it closes below this area, which did, and then came back and retested. That's the reason as to why I'm looking for sales there. You can see it came and made a very, very nice retest into this area here. Are we together? So also weekly agrees with that. We came touched here and then broke down. Now also we do have this turning point here. Most likely maybe that's why the market had gone to touch this point here. Let me just establish it very well with a line chart. Let's adjust it nicely here. Right? So weekly and monthly speak the same thing. Let's check what daily is stating actually. Now daily says that I mentioned last week that we had this area here that we had broken below. You guys recall? We have broken below, so we needed to retest. That's actually when we took our sales. So the market moved a little bit, and then it again rejected to come back up. We're together. So also we do have another turning point down here, which could be reflecting the lower time frames as the false breakout that I showed you. So let me just delete this because it already tested this area. So currently it's here. Now, if you're not yet into this trade, what we want to see, once the market creating this lower high M like this, so that it gives us this neckline area so that we can have a pullback into this area before we can continue lower, right? Because monthly, you can clearly see the direction. After testing this, we expect it to make at least a low, right? Now, weekly also agreeing the same thing, but now Dale also is saying that, yes, if you're not in this trade yet, we still don't have a clear structure. Remember, we trade structure. We have broken below this area. So if we didn't take a trade here, for us, we took here last week and we're already in it. We have some small profit. So if you didn't take the trade in the retest of this area here, wait for it to actually break this area here. Let me just mark it clearly for you. We're saying that if you didn't take the trade last week, wait for it to break this area. So it creates for you a lower high M like this, right? It will create an M like this to break down. And on a weekly test here, then you can take your trade. Where do we observe all this from? From the entry time frames. What entry time frames do we have? We have H4 and H1. We're together. So if you trade GBPUSD, let it first break here, then a weak momentum. You guys know now what strong momentum is and weak momentum is. Observe for change of trend, and you can take your trade. I'm still bearish on it because also the sentiments of the liquidity providers show me that these guys are still favoring the move downwards. So me as a retailer, I cannot be going against the people who have majority of the money or the most money in the market. So that's how you prepare for the week. I hope you got benefit out of it, and I wish you guys a profitable